Welcome to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, the show with business titans sharing their stories of the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite glass of whiskey, and listen to the real and raw stories of these industry leaders. Now, here's your host, the man, the myth, the legend, the most interesting marketer, Jacob Fail.
What's up, everybody? It's Jacob Fail, the most interesting marketer, CEO, and founder of Brute Media Group. And today we have a very special guest on the Whiskey with Winners podcast. We have someone who has over 2 billion with a B, of assets under management. He's basically going to become the next Denzel. He keeps playing on all these TV shows like Undercover, Billionaire. And he's the author of 8 best-selling books. Welcome, Grant Cardone, CEO of Cardone Enterprises and Cardone Capital. How's it going, Grant?
Jacob, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you having me on your show.
Yeah, definitely, man. So I just want to respect your time and dive right in. Go in and tell us a little bit about your backstory for those of us who don't know you. I mean, I know your backstory, but tell us about growing up in South Louisiana, because we're from similar areas. I'm from Slidell, Louisiana. So just kind of tell them how things were growing up for you and what all you've done.
Yeah. So look, I grew up in the devastated Lake Charles, Louisiana. You know, it was hit by this last storm, and I mean, they're still been hammered over there. It's a refinery town, as many of you in Slidell would know. It's a refinery town that now has gambling as a secondary function. And when I was living there, it was just a refinery town. So you either were in refinery or you were in a service kind of position, a sales or service position. I didn't work in the refineries. I didn't have any ends to the unions. My dad died when I was 10 years old. Grew up middle class, single mother, raised me, and there was 5 kids, and we were scared all the time. We were scared about money and finances. So when here I am, 40 years later, I live in Miami. I've lived all around the United States, traveled all around the United States, trying to build my business for the last many years, and was given an opportunity to do this show called Undercover Billionaire on Discovery. And it was like going back to when I grew up, man, where you're worried about money. I had no money. They gave me $100 and I got to build $1 million business in 90 days. And nobody knew me, couldn't use my name, couldn't use my contacts, couldn't use my credit cards. Like, I spent 40 years building my name and I can't use my name.
Right.
So it was like going back to the beginning where I was scared all the time, worried about where I'm going to live. I mean, any of you that go through that you're worried about time, money, family, you're worried about your job. When you watch this show, you're going to see a guy with no money and no time build a business. And, when I was growing up in Lake Charles, dude, there was none of that. Like, I didn't know how to do that. And I wanted to do it terribly. And I wanted to do it because I wanted to make my mom proud. Right. But I also wanted to make my mom less scared.
Yeah. And
I have been driven by that for still today. My mom's passed away about 10 years ago, but still today, I'm trying to compensate for how I grew up, which was, and I know the people in Louisiana can relate to this.
Yeah.
Worried every day about where the check's coming from, how to pay the bills.
Do you think that had made a chip on your shoulder as far as that goes? Like, I have to do this because I know I have a chip on my shoulder because of my last name, right? So do you think that growing up in that situation and your dad dying and your brother, passing away early, do you think that had a profound meaning to you to make that money and get to that level?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Like, my dad did everything right. I got a lot of chips on my shoulder, by the way, probably more than most people. One of them is my dad did everything the right way, everything.
Right.
He worked hard. He was respected in the community. He didn't do anything wrong. He saved his money. He paid all his debts off. He did what he said he was going to do. He saved his money. He had investments, paid the house off, paid the cars off, everything. Exactly by the book. The middle class rules.
Right.
When he died, we found out that what he had done, all the right things, were not enough to actually take care of the family. So one of the chips I've had on my shoulder for this many years is to, 1, figure the real game, and number 2, expose that the middle class game is actually not the way to play the game. And so much of what I do in this show, Undercover Billionaire, basically debunks some of the mythology that most of us are operating under. Like, it takes money to make money. You got to know people to make money, and you need time. Okay. I basically debunk those three things on this show.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the show, man. I was screaming at my TV whenever I was watching the first couple of episodes because of all the stuff that you were crushing it. I'm like, this guy is insane. Like, you're out there hustling, and you literally, the first night, I mean, you already had like 2 of your basic needs met. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? Right. But it's all about knowing the right people and being there at the right time. And you prove that is, if you find the right people and put yourself around the right people, you can get anything accomplished. It's all, getting the team together.
Yeah, I should have had you there with me on the show, but they wouldn't let me talk to any of my friends. I couldn't use my contacts, couldn't use my friends, couldn't call my buddies.
Yeah.
So, when you say the contacts are important, I don't have any.
Right.
Like, they give me a phone that's empty. There's not one person in it. And look, I don't even know how to start a phone. I got 150 employees. I got somebody that does like almost everything for me every day. Like, in the first 72 hours, I detoxed on help.
Yeah.
I've never actually said this in an interview, but the first 72 hours, I was like, okay, where's Annie? Where's Sherry? Where's Jared? Where's Ryan? Who's going to help me do this? Like, I don't even know how to do a search. Like, it was crazy, dude.
Did that take you back to like 25-year-old Grant on the car lot, just trying to figure it out? Like, was that?
Oh no, this took me back to like 8-year-old Grant, where I'm awkward, I'm clumsy, I'm uncertain, I feel out of place. This was worse than, like, you don't even know your surroundings, bro. Like, look, they dropped 3 people off, 2 girls, one gets Tacoma and one gets, I think, Fresno.
Yeah.
Those are metropolitan cities compared to where they dropped me off.
Right.
Okay. They dropped me off in Pueblo, Colorado.
Yeah.
It's half of the population of Fresno and a fourth of the population of Tacoma.
Right.
Then they give them nice trucks and they give me a piece of shit. These guys made it so difficult for me. And then I made it harder on myself because I would receive no help. Like, literally, I was fighting the crew behind the scenes. Nobody knows this. And this is not, maybe your audience will or will not share this. I'm hoping they don't share it too much. Dude, me and the crew fought every day.
Yeah.
There were fist fights. Yeah. Okay. There were, F you, get out of here, get out of my face. Like, that happened at least 4 times with different crew members. 2 people were fired from the crew, and Discovery called me. It had to be 4 or 5 times saying, hey, dude, you have to stop. I said, I got to stop what, bro? I'm on a roll. They're like, no. In 4 days, the first 4 days, they called me and said, if you don't slow down, we don't have a show. You're killing the crew. People want to quit. They're calling in saying, I'm done with this guy. I hate his guts. I can't work with him. He's impossible. But, the audience should take something away from that. Not that I'm impossible, but that I was completely focused for 90 days to build $1 million business in a town I've never been to prove to America, you don't need time, you don't need money, but you do need a strategy.
Yeah. Exactly. And strategy is super important because, I don't want to spoil the show for people, but as you progress through there, it seemed like you had a strategy moving forward of, okay, I got to get this. I got my basic needs moving forward. I have, the next thing is I got to get a car, right? Or, well, you had a truck, but then you upgraded it, right? And then you just kept continuing on and on with that. And then whenever you close that deal, like, that was a big turning point for you. Obviously, I haven't seen the next episode because it hasn't dropped yet, but I know the big things are coming through that.
Yeah. So I think what people are missing is, in 4 days, I had an RV under my control, $60,000.
Right.
I had a $40,000 truck under my control, a $4,000 Suburban under my control. What else? There was something else. I had a 15% deal at 10 days. I had a 15% deal equity position in the revenue of the company, plus a $10,000 check. Still had my $100 at Wells Fargo. I had a $100 credit line at the restaurant.
Yeah.
You didn't see this, but when I sold the Suburban, I also had $25, a $25 credit at Starbucks, a $25 credit at a little acai bowl place, or one of these little hanging tree vegan places to eat food. And I had 2 packs of Marlboros, and I don't even smoke cigarettes. I was just going to trade them with somebody else. Plus, I had a Colorado hat and a T-shirt that I got out of that deal. Like I was trading stuff and doing deals everywhere I went.
Yeah. And that's crazy. Just being able to leverage what you currently have. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons for the audience is like, you don't have to have a lot. You can leverage what you currently have to get more and to trade up for that. So what?
Yeah, well, one thing you better have a crystal clear target. You have to have a crystal clear target. Number 2, it needs to be big. I mean, it needs to be giant. And 3, it needs to be made public. And 4, I did all these, by the way. And number 4, there needs to be a penalty if you don't hit it.
Yeah.
All 4 of those things I had in play. Target, $1 million business. 2, I said, let's make it 10 million, not 1 million. 3, I'm gonna make it public and tell everybody if I don't do this, I'll pay $1 million. And 4, my brand was at risk.
Right. Talking about that with the branding aspect of it, like obviously you bet $1 million on yourself, which is probably, I mean, that's a huge bet for most people. And so with betting on yourself, how were you scared that was going to hurt your brand, or were you scared that it was going to be like, did you think that overall, like more people were going to be able to see this and bring them into the 10X community?
Yeah, dude, like the payoff is enormous. I bet $100 against Conor McGregor the other night. Like I'm not a big gambler.
Right.
But I'll bet $1 million on myself. Now I knew this. I knew stories are immensely valuable.
Right.
So basically what I was doing there was a branding play. Like, okay, I'm going to bet $1 million to Discovery that I can pull this off. That was more of a story than it was a bet, right? I'm like, okay, if I lose the $1 million, that's a story. Right. If I don't have to pay the $1 million, that's a story. You and I get to talk about that right now. Yeah. Like it's a headline, right? Would you bet $1 million on yourself? Most people want headlines. They're just not willing to create the headline. They're not willing to be on the creative side of the headline. All I'm doing is creating a headline. Right. And marketing is promote, promote, promote. I always say this, first 3 rules of business: promote, promote, and promote. Right. And story that I tell to you about Discovery, how I got the deal. I went there. They said, hey, can you build $1 million business? Make it 10 million. That's a story. I'll bet $1 million on myself. Another story. These are big stories. Boom. These are stories where you're willing to do an interview. Right. Okay. Where they're willing to push literally, like what Discovery's doing with this show right now has never been done in TV ever. They laid it out on their TV channel. They're bringing their streaming on at the same time here in 2021. Their streaming is their #1 initiative at Discovery. Discovery has gotten so much attention for this one show that they're pulling it off of TV and forcing people to go watch Discovery Plus. They're telling me that people are watching this show 3 and 4 and 5 times one episode. Okay, so what they're doing and what I'm doing with the promotional aspect is pushing to the show so that new people get to meet me and hear me. And if I pull off simple, easy to understand strategies, people maybe that didn't like me will start liking me. People that didn't know me will start knowing me, and people that did know me will be even more attached to the success that I have in the show. Yeah. Now talking about that, obviously you said promote, and I know I heard you on Clubhouse the other day talking about like how they're promoting it more, and how that they're pushing it super hard. So with you and your, the 10X following, and how did you build that, and how did you build like such a big brand off of that? Like, just say that we're starting out, someone, is just now starting to invest, and now that they're wanting to build this brand up like you have, how did you start that out? Most of what I've done has been just trial and error. I'm just trying stuff, a lot of stuff, right? And then the 10X rule was born out of 2008 economic collapse. Mm-hmm. And I realized in 2010, I'm a very aware person of, I'm an observer. I watch, I look. Right. I don't look at what you're doing. I look at what I'm doing wrong. Mm-hmm. In 2008, when the economy collapsed, I was like, okay, what did I do wrong here? And the answer was, I had nothing to do with that economic collapse, by the way. But because I had not gotten big enough, because I had been thinking 1X or 2X or just enough, particularly just enough, I was punished. Anybody that was in the middle and you weren't at the top of the food chain, right? 2008 punished you. You had nobody had victories in 2008, 9, and 10 if they weren't in the top 10%. Right. So I realized in that, hey, Grant, you're not thinking big enough. You're underestimating the downside of things. You're underestimating your potential and the upside. And that's where I came up with the 10X rule.
Right.
That 10X rule is the 6th book that I wrote. And it has literally like wrapped around the planet and become more than a book. It's become a movement. Millions of books have been bought. I think we sent out 600 yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Every day. Like those are coming out of my office, not off of Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's just become a worldwide movement. We have the largest conferences in the world now. People from all over the world. We had 51 countries come to Miami in 2017, 34,000 people, 3 days during Super Bowl weekend to talk about how to 10X their lives, 10X their money, 10X their customers, 10X their launches, their inventory, their connections, their charities. Like it's a big movement.
Yeah, definitely. And I was there last year and it was insane to see everybody and like all the caliber of speakers that you brought on, and even the ones that weren't on the playlist, that came up, and I was like, oh, gee, I was like, this is insane.
Dana White showed up, calls me on a Saturday morning. Hey man, can I come by your event? Dana White runs the UFC.
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather drops by Sunday, unannounced. John Travolta, Saturday afternoon, we have him on the stage, unannounced, unpromoted, just a surprise to the audience.
Yeah.
Usher's like, man, this 10X thing, the Usher is
Right.
like, this 10X thing is real.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart, I need to learn more about 10X in my life. This really resonates with me. We did a 1 hour interview with Kevin Hart. Like these are big names, big celebrities. And that 10X thing just resonates with people from all walks of life.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to respect your time. I have a couple more questions and then we'll get things rolling for you. So I did want to talk a little bit about like how you got started and getting started, when obviously you just did this with Undercover Billionaire, but for my audience, maybe they don't have a lot of money. Maybe they have like 5 to 10 grand. What would your best advice be to get on getting started?
Yeah. So if you only have 5 or 10,000 right now, 1, congratulate yourself for what you do have. 2, take a look at what you do have every day. And 3, you should invest. You should not look for other investments right now. You should invest that money in yourself. So if you only have 5 or 10 grand, the money should go into you. Okay. By the way, you should not be sitting on that money. 5 or 10,000 cannot save your ass. So you're like, oh, I got to save this money in case of an emergency. If it only costs 5 grand, that's not an emergency.
Yep.
So you should reinvest the 5 grand in you. Workshops, trainings, educations, masterminds, a mentor. Don't worry about it. Stay at 0. You're already there. Like people are hanging on to $7,000 like it's money. It is nothing. This is what I try to demonstrate to people in Undercover Billionaire. I had $100.
Right.
My last 100. And what did I do? I brought it to the bank and said, here, you hold it. The reason I wanted the bank to have it is because I want to work from 0 every day. And people that have 5 or 7,000 or 70,000 in the bank or a retirement account, you're scared, and scared money never grows. And the fact that you're trying to hold on, save, store, save for a rainy day, it is only because you have been miseducated about money. And I say this on the show, everything the middle class knows about money is wrong. There's not one thing that the middle class has been taught about money that is right. Save for a rainy day, a penny saved is a penny earned, buy a house, wrong. Shouldn't buy a house. You should invest in yourself, not a house. Okay. You're a better investment than one house is. Why? Because you can move, you can create, you can be in different places. So I see people putting 5 grand into a house, 2013 20th Street. You're buying a house because your parents told you buying a house is a good deal. Putting 5 grand in yourself is the best deal on the planet. That's where you should be investing your money right now.
100%. And that's why I invested in your Platinum Accelerator. And, we're constantly investing in myself, and my business partner are constantly investing in ourselves. And so that's definitely great to hear. And I tell everyone that they should invest in themselves first as well, because if you're not right yourself, you're not going to get to that next level. Right.
That's a fact.
Yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit more about what was your biggest mistake in your career and what do you regret the most?
Yeah. So the mistake and the regret are probably the same. One is I just simply 1, 2, and 3. I didn't think big enough. I didn't think enough of myself to think big enough. I came out of surroundings that my mom was clipping coupons, and that had a big effect on me. I'm like, okay, you got to save money to get money. No, you don't. You need to not worry about saving it. You need to worry about getting it.
Right.
Today I spend 98% of my time on the get and 2% on the keep.
Yeah.
The biggest regret and the biggest mistake I've made in my life is I have underestimated the true potential of me as an individual, not me as Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
And all individuals have a greater capacity to create than they're tapped into. And whether you like me or don't like me, agree with me on other comments or not, I think 99.99% of all people would agree they're not living up to their full potential. And I worry about the 0.01 that thinks he is.
Yeah, 100%. And I totally agree with that. I'm always striving to push myself to the next limit, but sometimes you get inside your head, and you've probably, especially on Undercover Billionaire, you probably got inside your head and you're like, you know, what the hell am I doing here? Right. And like,
every day,
what's next? Right. And so I feel like most people do that, and you get that self-doubt, and then you're just trying to push through it. But you're so in your head that you just can't get out of that rut. I mean, what do you do whenever you get there? I mean, I'm sure that you still get there sometimes.
Well, most of the time I get in that rut because I got other people in my ear.
Yeah.
And so like on Undercover Billionaire, at about 78 days, I had some traction. And the crew, and there's about 19 crew members. The crew, you know, they've never built $1 million business. All of them together have never built $1 million business.
Right.
They start getting in my head and telling me, man, you can back off now.
Yeah.
You're doing great. You're doing better than Glenn did last year. You're doing better than the other two girls. Oh, well, you're way ahead of everything everybody ever expected, blah, blah. And they got in my head, dude. The mites got in my head, and they started freaking chewing it. The one regret I have about Undercover Billionaire is that I didn't keep the freaking accelerator down harder all the way to the end, because I would have got a bigger evaluation.
Yeah.
And I really let myself down by not pushing harder for a couple of things. You'll see as you get to like the 10th week.
Yeah.
The show's on Discovery Plus. The only place you can watch it in the world is Discovery Plus. It'll cost you $5 a month to get $50 million worth of advice.
I love it. I love it. Like, if today was your last day, like last day on earth, there's no more.
Then I'd cut this interview short.
What would your legacy be? What would you want to be known for?
Oh, I don't know, man. I hopefully people will talk about how I loved, you know, being a prankster and telling jokes, and you know, I have a true love for people. I mean, nobody's going to remember me because of the money,
right,
or the jet, or they're going to remember how I raised my kids, though.
Yeah. So,
yeah, nobody can take away my parenting. What we've done with our kids is phenomenal. One of the things I'm most proud of. Two, I help a lot of people, man. You know,
yeah.
I would have regrets though if I died today, because I haven't helped enough people. Hopefully it's not today, Jacob.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, Grant. I appreciate your time. Thank you for everything that you do. And if anybody wants to go follow Grant, go to Grant Cardone on Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse. Make sure you're following this guy. He's absolutely crushing it. And I will see you at 10X. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, your home for real and raw stories of industry titans. Make sure to click the button below to subscribe. Follow our journey on Instagram at Most Interesting Marketer and Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Remember to always stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused.
Everything that I'm saying is out of context. Wait, it's not even really a contest. See, if you already know, then I'm next. Looking at a bodybuilder like Y-Flex. I'm dope in the pot like it's Pyrex, and I do it big just like a T-Rex. A T-Rex, I'm the best to ever do it. You know, could be so dope when he flow to the fucking music. Like, this shit is nasty for real. Yeah, I'm dope. You don't even have to ask me for real, man. Damn, I think I'm going long, I'm going hard. Woo. Who you know could come up with the bars? I'm a shooting star. I shine bright in the fucking night, and they can't tell me that I'm doing wrong. I do it right, like I'm at the top. So who you know could really top that? Yeah, and tune in to the podcast.